Hello, wonderful people. I greet you all. Okay, now I'm just going to leave this real quick here regarding the recently conducted election in Nigeria. Okay, now few days after the presidential election, it is funny that Nigerians are yet to come to terms with what hit them because what happened was really unprecedented. It was most unexpected. We never knew we were back to the dark days. Okay, now usually in time past, immediately a president emerges, what you will see is total jubilation, you know, almost like a festivity going on, from all parts of the country, even if not the entire population, but you see some semblance of jubilation all over. This is usually the hallmark, of an election that is fairly free and fair. In this instance, we didn't get to see that. Now, this is not far-fetched. Two reasons are deducible for this, and I'm going to tell you real quick. One of them is the fact that before the commencement of the election, the 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 INEC chairman himself, Professor Mahmoud, told the whole world several times, reiterated it several times, even in faraway Chatham House, that for the first time there's going to be a game changer, and that is the beavers. That they are going to transmit results right from the polling unit, real time. That was what he said. Okay. Now, the number two thing about this election is the fact that there has been plethora of discussion regarding if a presidential if a president elect must secure 25% of the votes in Abuja. A lot of talk has been going around about that. And if I remember very well, I think far back in 2008, the Supreme Court made a pronouncement regarding this issue. And what they said at that time was that the word "and," which referred to Abuja and Abuja, is supposed to be read conjunctively, meaning for a president to emerge, he or she must secure 25% of the votes in Abuja. In this instance, the president-elect, Mr. Tinubu, did not secure the 5% from the FCT. This is the reality. So I'm not going to take too much of your time. I'm going to allow you hear from a former top brass of the INEC Commission, Mr. Mikey Guinea. I'm also going to allow you hear from the INEC chairman himself, Professor Mahmoud. Then finally, I will allow you hear from one of the most distinguished legal luminaries in this country. He was a former attorney general. Okay, he's a lawyer of great repute. Okay, Mr. Anduka. So at the end of this, please feel free to leave your comments. In my opinion, there's no way this election will be allowed to stay because the will of the people will prevail at the end of the day. Thank you.
Far more important is the provision of section 134, subsection 2B of the Constitution. It is to the fact that no presidential candidate can be declared a winner in this election without having 25% in the Federal Capital Territory. That is very important for the whole world to know that tomorrow's election, wherever to be finally declared, apart from having 25% in 24 states of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Federal Capital Territory is like a compulsory question. You can answer all that question. But Federal Capital Territory, without having 25%, you go nowhere. This is important.
Constitutional crisis as the 2023 presidential election results began trickling in, with some analysts saying the winner must win 25% of valid votes in at least 24 states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory. In fact, some thought, winning 25% of the votes in the Federal Capital Territory would be the deciding factor in who wins the election. Well, the president-elect clearly did not get 25% of the votes in the FCT. So is this a good enough ground to question the validity of the results?
Well, thank you very much. It's a very difficult situation, but I think the matter has been interpreted before, around 2008, in a matter involving the current president, Buhari, when he filed an action. The issue of whether that and in between, that is, must have 25% in two states and the Federal Capital Territory. I think the pronouncement then was that the and is conjunctively. That was the interpretation then. But it's about 14 years ago. It's enough time, maybe. The Supreme Court may have another look on it. But as of now, that is the interpretation the Supreme Court gave in 2008. I don't want to go into details because the matter is now sub judice. About some states have already filed an action to challenge the legality of the election. So I am confining myself to what was the interpretation of the Supreme Court in Buhari's case in 2008.
Okay, just...
The interpretation simply was that...
Sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to get some clarification, which I'm sure is what you're saying right now. So please proceed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying I cannot go deep into the matter because already actions have been filed at the Supreme Court. And I'm just giving you an instance where there was an interpretation by the Supreme Court of that provision or a similar provision. The interpretation was that and federal capital should be construed conjunctively. In other words, it means you must get the 25% in 2 days, and also you must get 25% in the Federal Capital Territory.
Right, fair enough.
Thank you.
Fair enough. Thank you for expounding on that and explaining it a little further. It seems that it's a war of semantics in more than one case, not only with the and or Federal Capital Territory, but the words now are transfer versus transmit. And I'm speaking about IREV and BVAS, transmission versus transfer. A few days back, Senate President Ahmed Lawan, well, he said at plenary that the National Assembly only made provisions for the transfer of results from polling units to the INEC server. Now, this is contrary to the narrative that INEC has been selling on advertisements all over multiple television screens and even in newspapers, telling the country about real-time transmission of results that can be seen by all in order to create transparency. This particular sticking point, is this another credible angle that some or more of the parties might use to argue their case?
Certainly is going to be an issue because the position of the Supreme Court then and now are guidelines flowing from INEC have constitutional flavor. The guidelines flowing from INEC in the conduct of elections have constitutional flavor. Even in party politics, the Supreme Court has retaliated that party guidelines also ought to be obeyed. So how much with, not to talk of INEC guidelines, which flows directly from the Constitution, because they get the powers to enact, to issue out guidelines based on the power donated to INEC to conduct the election by the Constitution. if they have consistently issued guidelines alluding to the fact that the result will be transmitted live from the polling unit, not just here, all over, even at Chatham House, it will be a serious issue.
On this note, let me seize this opportunity to respond to a story emanating from a section of the media that the Commission has decided to jettison the uploading of polling unit level results in real time on election day. It should please be disregarded as fake news. The Commission will upload polling unit level results, and citizens will have access to those results in real time as we upload to the polling units. This innovation was introduced by the Commission. The Commission cannot turn around and undermine itself. So this technology has come to stay. We'll upload polling unit level results from the polling unit. Citizens will have the right to view these results. After all, who are we serving? The citizens. How can we deprive citizens from access to the results of the process conducted by them at the level of polling units?